Chapter 1. That Devil Scourge. Kenny's father burst into the kitchen, panting heavily. His ears twitched. It was supper time, and Kenny's mom was making her family's favorite corn chowder. The soup's heavy aroma swirled about as the farmer moved through the room. "Pack all your things! We're out of here! We're moving!" Kenny's dad hollered. He was a scraggly, hairy fellow wearing a wide-brimmed hat, and he was trying to catch his breath as if he'd been running. "Moving? Not now, mister," Kenny's mom replied. "The corn's not boiling yet, the broth isn't quite right, and I still have to sew the patches on Kenneth's trousers for school tomorrow." Kenny's dad paused, walked to the stove, dipped a finger in the pot, and agreed it still wasn't quite right. "Get your dirty paws out of my chowder. Wash your hands, have some milk, and tell me what's got you so riled up." She ground a little pepper into her broth. Unlike Kenny's father, she was soft, round, huggable, and seemed to always be adorned with an apron and with a spoon in her hand. Kenny's dad did as he was told. Then he stroked his ears and started. "This afternoon my eyes saw something I wish they'd never seen. I went to shepherd home the flock up on top of Shepherd's Hill, where they had been a-grazing all day. As soon as I get up there, I sees the sheep all huddled and quiet on the far side of the hilltop, and I think to myself, what in the world has got 'em so spooked? So I wander over to the other side of the hill. You know where them rocks and boulders are? Here, taste this. Better?" "Yes, much better." Hold on, dear. Kenneth, get out here and set the table." The wooden floorboards creaked as Kenny shuffled into the kitchen, his head buried in his book. He was reading a story about a giant, written by a man named Oscar. Without looking up, the small, skinny lad opened the cupboard and grabbed plates to place on the table. "Not plates, bowls, Kenneth. I told you earlier we're having corn chowder tonight. Get your head out of the clouds and put the book down for a minute and set the table properly." His mom snatched the book out of his paws and set it on the counter. The wooden counter was dinged, scratched, and stained from years of use. Pots and pans hung from the ceiling, right above where Kenny's mom was cooking. She reached over and opened one of the numerous round windows to allow the cool country air into the kitchen. "Don't you want to hear the rest of my story?" Kenny's dad whimpered through his milk mustache. "Of course, dear, of course. What did you find in the rocks?" his mom said as she tasted the soup. "So there I am, climbing up on them big rocks and boulders. All the while I'm thinking there must be a wolf, a lion, or a bear hiding in there. Remember I said I heard those weird whooshing sounds coming from the hill last week?" Kenny folded the napkin and placed them around the banged-up wooden table. "I remember that," he said. "I thought—" Hold on, son, hold on," his dad interrupted, waving his hands about. "So I make some noises on my own to see if I can spook it off. And that's when I saw it." Kenny stopped setting the table and looked up. "Saw what?" The gears in the lad's brain began to turn. He realized his father's tale involved some sort of encounter with a carnivorous animal. Kenny figured he could determine just what his dad had seen based on the description. A lion was out of the question. They were too far east for lions. Wolves usually traveled in packs and were rarely seen in these parts. But bears did prefer rocky outcroppings and caves. Well, first I smell something burning. Not wood, but something smoky-like. Then I see a pair of glowing eyes, and then a head as big as this here table peers out from an opening in the side of the hill, and it's covered in horns and scales and fur like a crocagator. "You mean alligator," Kenny corrected him, though he wondered what sort of alligator had horns and fur. "Exactly. But have you ever seen a blue alligator? With a neck like a turkey and a body like one of them giant lizardy things in your books?" "You mean dinosaurs, Dad? Those really did exist, you know. Scientists have even found their bones in old—" "No, son, this wasn't one of them Brontosaurus rexes." His father looked him in the eyes. It was like one of them flying things that eats pretty maidens and burns castles to the ground. Kenny paused for a moment. It can't be, he said to himself. It couldn't be. He put the last of the silverware in its place on the table. His father just sat there staring at him with his big eyes. Glancing over at his mother, Kenny noticed she had stopped cooking and was looking at them quietly while holding the ladle. He turned back to his father. Dad, are you talking about a dragon? Yes, son, I am talking about one of them dragons. He started pacing around the kitchen, waving his arms wildly. It's taken up residence on the side of Shepherd's Hill, and we gotta sell the farm and move before that devil, that scourge, comes down and burns everything right to the ground.